The path to sacred, uniques, and ancestral weapons and gear in Diablo 4. Let me just say some very interesting things start to happen once you hit level 70, even to rare weapons. And there's a legendary feature that has changed up the way veteran Diablo players are farming in the game. And what's going to happen to Diablo 4 in the long term, given that Microsoft owns Blizzard now, will post-launch content and the Diablo franchise in the future become Xbox only? Gotta talk about it, but check this out right here. So I recently found the best way to both discover new content online and receive the best in internet privacy. I'm talking about private internet access, the ultimate VPN solution with over 30 million downloads, a no-log policy, and it's rated excellent on Trustpilot. Private internet access will protect your internet connection so you can breathe easier knowing your browsing and online information is kept private. If you didn't know, a virtual private network, or VPN for short, hides your IP address and safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. So private internet access VPN essentially shields your digital life from shady hackers that are looking to exploit your private info. Whether you're at your local coffee shop, at an airport, at your friend's house, or even at your own home, private internet access protects your data from being stolen. And get this, private internet access also increases internet speeds and lowers your ping so you can enjoy your multiplayer gaming sessions without any annoying lag or connectivity issues. And guess what? It's super easy to install and get connected online through private internet access, and it's available on all platforms including Windows, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and many more, and it's affordable. You can use one private internet access subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices at the same time. Signing up for private internet access is risk-free. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, and 24/7 customer support is available. And let me tell you what, I love this next feature. Private internet access helps you overcome regional restrictions so you can easily change your IP address to one of 84 countries and all 50 US states. This allows you to access new shows on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and even new sales and deals that you didn't know about. It's a whole new world that opens up. Plus, it's one of the few VPNs that supports peer-to-peer file sharing. So remember, right now, private internet access is seeing that very big discount of 83% off. That's only about $2 a month, and you'll also get 4 extra months completely free by clicking that link in the description below, so check it out. So yeah, on to the official, unofficial news. This was literally posted by the official Diablo Twitter account. It says, "The people ask, so we give." We're skipping Diablo 5 through 11. Prepare for Diablo 12. We're bringing the fires of hell right to you in real life, right now, at your door. Dear God. Lilith shows right up at your door. What would be the first thing you would say to her? Sound off in the comments down below. Also, if you did not know, the most popular classes were revealed from the beta. Check it out. It was the Sorcerer and Necromancer, of course, but between those two, which would be your go-to class? Which one would you main? I myself, I loved the Necromancer, obviously by the gameplay. But yeah, we got to talk about what happens at level 70 because some really cool stuff starts to drop. We're talking about sacred ancestral weapons and, of course, the uniques that you will be experiencing. But let's take a look and dive into this post right here. It goes on to say this: Diablo 4 in-game itemization, unique to ancestral grade, and a fixed guide, because it walks us through what we can expect for our leveling experience in the full version of the game. And trust me, things get very, very interesting later on. But here's some examples that were data mined and also shown officially for the actual uniques that we will be obtaining throughout our adventure. This is just an example, of course. But let me tell you what, data miners were very busy during the beta, and they discovered all of the uniques that were available during the beta. And there's some really cool stuff that we're seeing here. Of course, it's only a fraction of what we're going to be experiencing in the full launch of the game, but you can pause it for yourself to see what these uniques can actually do and pull off. But yeah, let's get into what is going to be happening here through our adventure, starting from the very beginning, because yeah, we don't get access to all the world tiers. In fact, it goes on to say this right here, that at level 1 through 50, we can expect access to world tier 1 through 2, with a 20% increase in experience and 15% more gold at tier 2. Now, at world tier 1 through 2 difficulty, we expect rare and legendary items can drop with special unique butcher cleaver at super low rate. Now, rare items have 3 affixes, legendary items have 4 affixes, rare and legendary items share some pool of affixes, and legendary aspects can be crafted on rare and legendaries. Now, that's going to change as we go. Big time. It's important to note this stuff. Now, at level 50 through 70, unlocks World Difficulty 3, that's World Tier 3, 100% increase of experience, 15% more gold, and foes overcome 20% resistance. And yes, to get World Tier 3, you do have to complete the Cathedral of Light Capstone Dungeon on World 2 Veteran difficulty. So it's pretty cool that you have to complete a certain dungeon to gain further access to World Tiers. I think it's cool. Now, what happens at World Tier 3? It goes on to say this: sacred and unique items added to the pool. That's going to be awesome. Nightmare sigils that unlock nightmare dungeons can drop, and the end game has begun. Now, also, hell tides can appear across Sanctuary. And yes, champion monsters with resistance auras can appear as well, and you get special crafting materials and ingredients from these. Now, only sacred grade aspects can be grafted onto sacred items, so that's something to be very mindful of as well. Now, what happens when we hit level 70 and beyond? Good question. It goes on to say this: unlocks World Difficulty 4, 200% increase in experience, 15% more gold, and foes overcome 40% resistance. Now, there is a requirement to get to this World Tier 4. You have to defeat the Fallen Temple Capstone Dungeon in the northeastern dry steppes on World Tier 3 Nightmare. Now, World Difficulty 4, ancestral items and new unique items can drop. The in-game loot and builds begin to really develop here. We have rare items now have 4 fixes, just like the legendary items. Sacred aspects onto sacred, and ancestral aspects onto ancestral items only. So you can't take, for example, a sacred aspect, break it down, and then say, oh, I want to put that on a legendary. That's not how it's going to work at all. You're going to have to match it with whatever rarity you get, like ancestral onto ancestral, if that makes sense. So the hunt for those super rare, uniques, ancestral, and sacred items will be on. It's going to be on your mind all the time. Let me tell you what, and you can see how much it's going to change from like level 1 to 70 the experience in Diablo 4, which I think is going to be awesome. Now, speaking of legendaries, it was recently discovered by Riker that there's a really cool feature that I think a lot of you might have missed out on. It's kind of controversial. It stems from Diablo Immortal. It goes on to say this right here. Riker talked about how more bizarre, exciting, and totally balanced legendaries are coming to Diablo 4 at launch, as confirmed by Blizzard. However, he also noted a feature that a lot of the community missed out on and how it changed the flow of gameplay. So check it out right here. It says this: it's a feature very much borrowed from Diablo Immortal, in that you can completely skip picking up legendaries and they will be mailed to you at your stash. He went on to say how it changes the way you play the game. That loot experience is kind of taken away from the player, and some people think that this is kind of a bummer. Do you guys think that it changes the gameplay too much? Because I know it's kind of cool to actually see an orange item drop and instantly go, oh wow, I want to pick that up. But what people are discovering in that with co-op and the way that it's going to be min-maxed is that you're going to want to actually take separate paths when you're in co-op and go this way and that way, and you're not going to be picking up legendaries at all. If your friend actually drops a legendary from a certain enemy that you don't even see, it doesn't matter. You don't have to go get it. It's going to end up in your stash, and that kind of affects the gratification of the loot experience. However, there's some noteworthy things here as well. One thing to note right here, for example, is there's a limit on to how much legendaries can be mailed to your inbox and stored. The number right now is 10. So if you're going from dungeon to dungeon without checking your inbox and it does fill up, it might be possible to miss out on a legendary. So you have been warned, and there is, in my opinion, incentive to actually grab that legendary. Now, you can be a smart player and be very aware of how much legendaries are stored in your stash and kind of count it, but I think you can also have some accidents happen. So I myself, I like to pick up the legendaries. However, there's also another purpose to this system, which is fantastic. Check it out right here. It goes on to say this: having it sent to your stash is amazing. My game crashed right when the boss fight ended. Having that legendary sent to my stash rather than me losing it was way better than just straight up losing it. And I think that this is the reason why the system exists in the first place. And that's actually one of the things that Diablo Immortal got right, that Diablo 4 is actually borrowing from. So I say that is a great feature overall, because how it sucked to miss out on a world boss legendary. That would be awful. So yeah, good idea to have that in the game for sure. So overall, I think it's a great function, but I think people are going to min-max this system. And yeah, it might lose the allure of actually grabbing the loot for yourself. Let me know how you're going to play the game. If you're going to walk up to the loot and make sure it's actually in your possession before you leave the dungeon. All right, so we got to talk about concerns about Diablo 4, content post-launch support being only Xbox only and the future of the franchise itself going Xbox only. So it comes in line with what's happening with third-party titles like Call of Duty. In my personal opinion, I do strongly believe Activision and Blizzard will handle Diablo and their franchises that are third-party and currently on PlayStation, much like they're handling Call of Duty. So that gives us a really good basis as to what to expect. So let's dive into this article right here. It goes on to say, Call of Duty consumes Microsoft Activision's deal focus. What about Diablo 4? Great question. Let's get into it. So yeah, it goes on to say this: the pending Microsoft acquisition of Activision continues to be very weird. No, I'm not just talking about the constant sniping between Microsoft and Sony, which these days has put Sony on the back foot, but rather how when you scale back and look at this deal, it's for a surprisingly limited amount of IP for its price, and essentially all of it is being ignored in favor of one game being debated, Call of Duty. Stay with me here. We're going to be getting into Diablo 4 right now. So it says this, but then there's Diablo 4, probably the current crown jewel of the entire company, especially after recent previews have indicated it's going to be quite good. And I really never see it mentioned when anyone is discussing this deal. Why? A few reasons, some of which make more sense than others. Let's get into those reasons, shall we? So, yes, it goes on to say this: it does seem unlikely this deal will be wrapped up by Diablo 4's early June release date. Therefore, we're not really hearing about Diablo 4 going on Game Pass for Xbox or PC. But what we don't know is if after the acquisition, if the game could transition to being a Game Pass offering in the future, or if Microsoft will continue to sell at a premium like a normal game. Free Diablo 4 in the future would be a huge draw for Game Pass. Will it happen? I foresee that happening in a few years down the road. I think that Activision and Blizzard is looking to keep Diablo as a premium experience, that $60 experience, and it's going to sell like hotcakes, and they're going to be able to keep that price up at $60, or I think that $70 or $90, depending on what edition you bought, for as long as possible. Furthermore, it goes on to say this: Diablo 4 isn't making as many waves with Sony specifically because it's not a PlayStation-linked franchise like Call of Duty has been after recent marketing deals. It's not even a console-first franchise, with its main home having traditionally been on PC. That's also true. See, the thing is, even though if it goes full-blown Xbox only, it's still very much going to be a PC title. So you PC players really don't have to worry. The people that have to worry are the PlayStation users. Furthermore, they go on to say this, but I have questions about how future Diablo content would be handled if the deal goes through. If Diablo 4 isn't on Game Pass, how would its inevitable Reaper of Souls style expansion be later? How will Microsoft handle this franchise once it's theirs? Great question. We have further follow-up here that says this. And then I'm also curious about the live aspect of this. It's going to be an ongoing live game the way Diablo 3 is now, though probably even more monetized given a new focus on a battle pass and purchasable cosmetics. How much potential revenue are we talking about here? I'm sure they're going to make bank off of the battle pass for sure. But you know what? I think we can kind of rest easy about certain elements of this because of what has been said about Call of Duty, which of course is the biggest third-party title in the Activision Microsoft partnership or acquisition. So what has Phil Spencer said about that? And I think that also kind of leads into what we can expect with Diablo 4. Here's the headline right here. Phil Spencer: Microsoft will not make any Call of Duty content exclusive to Xbox. And they go on to say right here that the plan is for Microsoft to treat Call of Duty the same way it does with Minecraft, keeping the game multi-platform and available on as many platforms as possible. We want to increase the places where people can play Call of Duty. I think a little bit like Minecraft. I think when we acquired Minecraft, our monthly active player base was 20 to 30 million. I'm doing this from memory, but I think that's about the size of Minecraft was. I think it's about maybe 120 monthly players on Minecraft, so they really do not want to negatively impact that community. And I think the same assessment would be true for Diablo 4. But it does seem that this acquisition, that Microsoft owning Diablo essentially, and whatever Blizzard is working on, is most likely going to come at a cost to Sony. They're just not going to be giving Sony access to their acquired games for free. Here's an indication of that one right here. Check it out right here. It says this. Spencer mentioned the agreements Microsoft has with Nintendo and Nvidia. Microsoft signed a binding 10-year legal agreement to bring Call of Duty games to Nintendo platforms if Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition is approved. Microsoft has also signed a 10-year partnership to bring Xbox games on PC to the Nvidia GeForce Now cloud gaming service. And I'm sure that related to all of this, there has to be some sort of fee that Microsoft is willing to bring these games to the platform, or some sort of partnership that has to be worked out behind the scenes. We don't know exactly what that looks like, but trust me, it seems like Sony is kind of like huffing and puffing over the fact that they even have to do this partnership, that they have to answer to Microsoft. So you've seen some of that news, but that's definitely going to be the case with Diablo going forward. And I do expect them to try everything in their power to keep it multi-platform, though it is going to come at that cost. All right, let's take a look at your top comments. Remember to leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video. So my most recent video was this one right here. Yes, the devs just said this about raids, post-launch content, and new class update. If you missed that, check it out on the channel. They said some very interesting things about raids. Now, Douglas Miller goes on to say this: I'd like to see world bosses spawn when I'm not at work and not asleep. So the devs did confirm that the world boss rotation will be very different from the beta, that those set times are not going to be exactly how it works whatsoever, and they say that you don't have to worry about that in the full version of the game. I'm curious to see what they're going to be doing with world bosses here. Now, you got to remember, when you face off against a world boss in the full version of the game, whether you lose or not, or win, you can only challenge the world boss, I believe, once a week. So they have that system in place. So it's going to make it a lot more nerve-wracking than what we experienced with the beta. Then we have this one right here from Padme Mayo, who says nothing wrong with being able to organize a world boss raid with your clan as long as it doesn't become part of a daily or weekly quest. The world boss can be done by everyone, whether you're in a clan or not. So it's not like solo players are gated out of this content. Exactly. You know, I just don't want to see content where it's like, oh, this raid event has the best legendary gear that you just can't get anywhere else. You cannot get this by soloing and that sort of thing. That would be a total bummer and really, really hurt the game, at least in my mind. You should be able to get the best gear in any way possible, in my opinion. Now, we have this one, Mara Django, who says about group content, Blizzard could make both camps happy by making raid content scalable. You could team up and clear the content faster, maybe even add more mechanics to it that require group play, or you can do it solo and the difficulty scales down accordingly. I definitely wouldn't tie any special bonuses to doing this in a group, since the fun of playing with a bunch of friends and maybe even getting to clear faster should be enough of a reward. Exactly. But the reward should be like major, of course, but it should be in line of what you should expect from beating a world boss, you know, or taking down a dungeon boss by yourself on nightmare difficulty or whatever. But there it is. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more Diablo 4 and open world gaming goodness. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.